So we are starting with introductions. Yes, Mugethi.
So hi everyone. So my name is Mugethi. I have a long, diverse sort of experience. My background is in information technology. I've done everything from being a computer teacher to working in non-for-profits. I was the iHub community manager for 3 years. In tech, I'm more of a front-end stroke design person. And now I run a startup called Mugethi's Naturals, where I manufacture skincare and hair care products.
Good evening, guys. My name is Janet Othero. I think I'm the only stranger in Jerusalem. I am a lawyer by training. I've done the whole spectrum of law, but naturally, as you are seeing everything digitalized, we've been forced as lawyers to just kind of understand what the tech world is all about. So I usually specialize in telecommunication and technology law, and I'm hoping today will be a very interactive session to just kind of get what you guys are thinking about in terms of when you develop, and also how as lawyers we can assist you achieve your goals.
Janet, you're not the only stranger. My training is in economics, but after I graduated and didn't find anything interesting to do, I went back and tried to get into programming through the back door. That was just over 10 years ago now. Started off by taking any job using any language or technology that I could find, and eventually found that I really enjoyed making things for the web, and that I really enjoyed working for small companies as well. So I started to get into startups, and eventually was part of the team that founded Housekeep in London about coming up to 6 years ago now. And we've grown really successfully over the last 5-6 years to the point where we're serving now thousands and thousands of customers in London and thinking about expanding geographically. And my own journey has taken me to Nairobi, where I'm starting to explore the tech scene here.
Hi guys. Sorry I'm late. My name is Brian Wangila. So contrasting my two colleagues here, I'm one of those people who've been techies from like year old. I got into tech from gaming, and then trying to hack around gaming, and all the way to what I do now. I'm a computer scientist by training, and for business, I'm the co-founder and CTO of Skyline Design, which is a local design agency that tries to improve the quality of design while improving the community by mentoring people around. Yeah.
Okay, so now we have their bios. Please permit me to stand down here. I feel like I'm caged when I sit, so they're the ones who will talk, so I will just ask questions. So all of you, in one way or another, have different paths in which you followed, and you found yourself in this IT industry. In one way or another, we have lawyers, we have Mugethi now she's doing everything to do with hair. And then you have Brian, who went the traditional way, where I started from the young age, and then I had to do computer science, and I got like all of you have gotten into these parts. But now here's my question: what parts for the guys who are starting out, that is, and the guys who want to transition into either tech or they are in these fields, what parts actually exist? And that is I think it encompasses everyone, because maybe I'm in tech, but I feel like I see these lawyers and they're dressed in these expensive suits, so maybe that's a very nice career change. How can I get into that field? Is there, do I need to go to school for 4 years, 5 years, maybe 10 years or something? Can I start learning on my own? How can I get into that field that you guys are in right now, especially in tech? Yeah.
Since I have the microphone, I guess I'll start. We live in a beautiful time right now, where the gates have been opened. You don't need much. You don't need to spend much. You don't need to spend much time to learn anything. Someone once made a joke. You could be a doctor who's trained for 6 years. Then you've gone and interned. It's taken you 10 years to get to be at the junior level. Then there's some child somewhere, a 17-year-old who went onto Udemy, took a course, 2 months later, started an app that was Tinder for cats and made more money than you will ever make all your life. So that's kind of the beauty of where we are at right now. All it takes is identify your passion. And again, the other good thing is tech has spread out. It's not the way it was 10, 15 years ago. Right now, there's even just say, we deal with web and mobile mostly. Just in that field alone, there's about 15 different specializations. So we could be web, you could be front-end, back-end, database, DevOps, you could be mobile designer, you could be UX, all that. And the beauty of that is you don't have to code to be a techie. You don't have to be a developer to be in this space. You don't have to be a designer to be in this space. So it kind of fits with everyone's personality. So just identify one, then read reviews on courses, find recommendations, take one course, and most importantly, just follow through on it, keep practicing, keep shipping stuff, and you will get somewhere. Yeah.
This question made me laugh a bit because it reminded me of when I was 24 and trying to find jobs using my social science background. And what I really wanted to do, and what I'd wanted to do for years, was to retrain as a programmer, but I thought I was already too old to do that at 24. So eventually the desire just got too strong and I found a course. It was a bit like, in modern terms, I think it would be called a boot camp. So it tries to compress the things that you need to know to get started in this field into a relatively short course. And I did that, and on day one of that course, I knew I'd made the right decision, like the best decision of my life, because I was enjoying it so much. So my first piece of advice is never count yourself out. If you feel like it's too late, it's not. I thought that was really good advice about online courses as a way into programming, but I think for a lot of people, if they're trying to study programming by themselves, they can often hit blockages which are really, really difficult to overcome as like one person alone in your room. So anything you can do to find mentorship or short courses or just a group of people that are working on the same problems at the same time, that's a really valuable support if you're trying to break into this field. And again, to echo just like the diversity of needs that the industry has right now, so many different types of people are required. So just start looking, start researching, seeing what's out there, and in particular, try to find a support group of people who are on the same journey.
I guess for being a lawyer, you just have to go to school. There's no shortcut about it. But within the legal space, what we are seeing currently is there's a lot of disputes coming out of this whole collaborating to develop apps and everything, and they all end up in court. And we all know the average age of our judges is 50 plus years. So they will not appreciate the content or the evidence that you place before them. So what I've always preached this as a gospel is some of you techies, if you can enroll in arbitration classes and become arbitrators. You already understand how the field works, how the technology works. So the only thing you need to add is a certification in being somebody who can resolve disputes. So that's one area as techies you can look at doing. Another thing is policy making and being policy changers, which I think is a very big deal in terms of you've seen some of the new legislation that are coming out that are very absurd and are very water weight. So that's where you guys can also participate. And hopefully with the new Data Protection Act, there's a position called Data Protection Officer, which requires somebody with a tech background or a law background. Again, those are some of the roles you guys can consider that's within what you're still doing.
So to add on what they're saying, I feel like we have gotten to a place where tech is no longer like a department or a section. It's more of a literacy. You can use your tech skills wherever you decide to work. So like for me, now that I'm no longer actively working in technology and I'm running a startup, my tech skills are still coming in very handy. My business is an e-commerce business. I was able to build my own website and, like create my own branding assets. So Maybe you might not be considering going like full into technology as a career, but having technology skills as a literacy is also something useful.
It's good you've mentioned technology skills. So currently, I'm Kenyan, so African, Kenyan, 100%. I mean, the color just tricks it all, yani, But, we have something in Kenya. You have an 8 to 5 job, then you have a shop at home, then you have another side hustle somewhere, like that. And then also, there's something else we see when we look at the job descriptions nowadays. They sort of don't advocate for specialization, they advocate for jacks of all trades, which sort of contradicts when you just leave the continent a little bit, or even within the continent when you get to some certain levels of pay grades. Yeah. So what advice would you give to people who are in between, are starting out? Should you specialize, or should you just go the way of I am a jack of all trades? Maybe master in all or master in none, so it's...
I'm gonna jump that.
I think some people worry too much that if they choose the wrong technology for the first thing that they study, their skills will become irrelevant. I don't think that's true. As long as you choose something that's relatively mainstream, so there's tons of resources, and you will find real companies in the real world using it, you can't go too far wrong with the first thing that you choose. The technology I used in my first job is completely different from what I'm using today, but I still draw on the broad general lessons that I've learned at every stage of my career. In terms of whether or not you should specialize or generalize, again, there's good paths for both approaches. The world needs really detail-oriented systems engineers who know how to work almost at the level of the processor, and the world needs full-stack engineers who can throw together a fully functional minimum viable product in a week with all of the moving parts fitting together. So again, it's more a matter of what your personality is suited to than being worried about making mistakes.
I'll use myself as an example. So I started out in networking, did CCNA, then transitioned into design, then learned HTML, then became a back-end developer, then went into database, and now I am sort of a systems architect putting all of that together. So first things first, there's a problem with job descriptions around. A huge problem. It's almost like the employer throws their wish list at you, and then they hope someone somewhere might be able to fulfill a percentage of it. So what I keep advising people is, if you find a job description and you can, the most important things are usually at the top. If you can fulfill the major things, the rest are usually nice to haves. And if you go for that interview, you will find that they actually just need a subset of that. So don't let that discourage you. And then number two, especially on the dev side, it is more important to learn what development is based on than an actual language. So say I love PHP, you love Python. That does not mean much right now. It's what do you know about how these languages work, how the computer science principles, the basics, the core basics of developing systems. Once you know that, it does not matter what the next project you're jumping onto is using. You can simply, I know PHP, that's enough for me to spend a few weeks to a month and I'll be up and running in Python, and on to the next. That's the most valuable trait you can have as a developer, that versatility to jump onto something. Yeah.
Since you alluded into it, and now we'll just go everywhere, all the way. So skills needed, 2019. Let me tell you why. So sometimes you meet, so I've had both senior engineers who sometimes tell you, I don't understand why someone who's starting out will ask you, so what should I learn? Or what should I know? or what should I be good at? What should I be good at is very wide. Like there's soft skills there is like there's just so much in what should I be good at. Based on your experience again, what are these things that you feel like these are the skills that developers should this is again based on your experience.
So starting out, you don't need much. Number one, I think you just need good work ethic and honesty. That already sets you above like 50%. Because we've all had stories of my developer disappeared with a project, is not picking up my calls, is taking my website down over a misunderstanding, so such things. That's you as a human being, just be a decent human being. So that's step one. And then number two, pick one of the major things. So big things in Kenya are like, you're either doing web, mobile, or design. So pick one, and then say, if you want web, take one thing. What's the first thing you learn in web? You need to know HTML and CSS. So take those two and work with that. HTML, CSS, and a decent human being, that's enough to earn you a living. That's it. On mobile, take something. There's iOS, Android. In Kenya, we are mostly Android users, majority, so that's where most jobs are. Android, learn a bit of Android. Decent human being, that's another track. Same thing with design. Then as you keep going, that's when soft skills start coming into play. The more senior you are, the more the soft skills are needed. Because now you stop working alone, you start working as a team. Working as a team, you need to communicate better, project manage better. And then after that, you become a team lead. You become a senior developer. Now you're mentoring the juniors. Now you're training people, you're leading, you're guiding people. So you still have the core tech knowledge. That sets you apart. But what sets you apart even more is you are that person who understands tech and how it affects everything else in delivering a project. And then you go all the way up to CTOs and tech leads, product leads, where you need to, you know the tech, but your client does not care about the tech. Clients do not care. I wrote beautiful code. That database is super optimized. That does not mean anything. I spent 6 days replacing spaces with tabs. That does not mean anything. All they want is, I know I have this problem and I know tech can solve it. And if tech can solve my problem, my business can make more money. Can you do that for me? They don't care which language you used, which stack you used, who did it, how does it work. So at the top level, you're that person who listens to the client, takes that, breaks it down into what tech is needed to solve that problem, and then manages a team that can deliver on the project. So the soft skills keep going, and also your tech skills keep going. You specialize the higher you go, but I'd actually advise starting out, specialize in a track, like web, mobile, or design. Don't specialize in a language and stick to it. You're better at that point, and you've not, as a junior, you've not exposed yourself to much to make that decision yet. So give yourself some time, give yourself a few projects before you actually specialize and know what you like. Yeah.
That was a fantastic answer. I can only add a couple of things to that. One, really important at the beginning to kind of learn how to learn. There's a lot of mini skills that go along with that, like how to Google an error message in order to debug a problem, how to use Stack Overflow effectively, how to follow tutorials in a way that you don't just build the thing that they're showing you how to build, but you actually take the lessons away of how to use the framework more widely. All of those will come with just experience and time, but you can be intentional about learning how to learn things. Another specific skill is debugging. Really difficult to start out, but over time you develop instincts. Often you'll be like banging your head against a wall, and somebody more experienced will just come along and say, look here, and then that's where you find the problem. That skill that they have is just an instinct that they've developed by seeing hundreds of the same types of bugs come up over the years. And on the subject of being a decent human being, I think one specific thing I'd call out is a level of humility. There's a big difference in approach between the developer who thinks they already know the answer to the problem versus the one who approaches the problem with humility and doesn't assume that they already know the best technology to use or the reason that the software is falling over, and instead just is humble about how much they don't know in any given situation and approaches it like that.
So jumping on to what Wangila said, in the morning panel, Kate mentioned that tech is social and it affects human lives. So that's another thing that you have to have in mind. That's a skill. Like, you need to approach your developing, your building in a human-centered way. I feel like in 2019, we cannot afford to be building solutions for problems, imagined problems, and then presenting them to the users. We need to work with the users. And if you are in the AI track also, the presenter also talked about how things like bias and how they will actually harm humans. So yeah, that's something else that you need to have in mind.
Janet, no, this one is totally you. So there's this thing where, I think Brian talked about it, but he talked about it in a negative way. Contracts, IP. So I've done a job for someone. I'm starting out, I'm in the middle. I've done a job for them, finished the website, it's online. Yeah. This guy promised me he's going to pay me. We even wrote somewhere. He said, by the day you start the work, the total cost of the work, maybe it's even, let's say, 20,000 Kenya shillings, yeah? And he said, okay, 20,000. So I said, I'll give you 5,000, and then I'll give you the rest when you finish. So it's been 2 months, the website is running, he's making money. 3 months, he's not paying me, he's just taking me around. As a developer, based on experience, you just go there and put a site. This owner refused to pay the developer, hence put it down. Next thing you know, you're in the police station. How do you shield yourself from such kind of things,
Where do I start?
When you're freelance, this is freelancers. I'll come to the jobs part, yeah. Just now. This is freelancing.
So the life cycle of just basically a project. Somebody approaches you, you agree on the terms, you put something in writing. A lot of you guys don't like speaking to lawyers. I don't know why. You go to Google, you download a template contract, you've not looked at what enforcement is all about, what kind of undertakings you can enforce yourself without having to go to court, and whether you really have to go to court or you can get like a third-party neutral mediator to sort it out. First thing I'd always advise, get a contract, get a lawyer to talk you through it, enforce your rights completely, make it ironclad, then sign, then start the job. Then when it doesn't pay, the contract is something now you can take either to a third party or to court and enforce your rights. But the court process is long, unfortunately. It might even take a year or two before you get orders. So once you get orders, your lawyer will definitely advise you, let's get auctioneers on these guys. Or in the meantime, as the court process is going on, you get orders that are called injunctions. So injunction is basically telling him you're not allowed to run this website, you're not allowed to use my work product until this case is solved. That way it will harm his business, which he doesn't want. So it will force him to the negotiating table. And then when you get on the negotiation table, you'll get your money in a faster time. So the other thing to also look at is when you're getting into these engagements with these guys, do you always sign sort of NDAs with them so that information being exchanged across is protected? Because he may have given you a scope that's A to B, but you add a D onto it that was somewhat your inventive or thought process, and then now you push probably the value or the user of his website to be more valuable, but now he wants to pay you for A to C, yet you added a component D which was not agreed on, but you can see it's your work. So those are things that now you can even go back to the contract and add addendums or variations to sort of cover any extra work that you've done and agree on the payment, so that when it comes to ownership, claiming ownership and all that, you're protected. But there's the new act, computer misuse. It has over 30 sorts of crimes, including cyber squatting and all those things. So the moment you cross that line, unfortunately, it's a police matter now.
Okay, so what you're saying is we need lawyers. But lawyers are
Ideally.
expensive. I'm starting out.
No,
Manze.
listen.
I can't afford these things.
There's-
I mean, I'm talking for the normal developer who's starting out.
There's 10,000 of us as at this year, 10,000 licensed lawyers.
Okay.
From top tier law firms to the guy who got out of law school last year, who's opened up his kiosk in his house. He needs the business. So Twitter is there. A lot of lawyers are on Twitter. You just put in a request, or you go to law society offices. You tell them, I have this case, but I need pro bono. We are also, as lawyers, required to sign up for pro bono cases where you take on cases for free. Some of these things, while you start, you don't know what they might materialize into in the next 2 or 3 years. So you get a lawyer who has the technical expertise. They walk you through some of the documents. If they can do it for free, well and good. If not, NGOs are there. Kituo cha Sheria also does the same thing. FIDA also does more or less the same things.
Now let's talk money before I open it to the audience. I'm passionate about that side. Developers need money to survive. I mean, guys start out by saying, I'm doing this for fun, for free. Is that really true? Should that be allowed? You know, I'm just doing this for fun. I just code for fun. I'm just passionate about, mobile development. So I will code for fun, not for food, just for fun. Like that, I'm passionate about this thing. So there's the money part where there's not the negotiation. This one I'll ask, because I think even as you guys cover that thing, yeah? So there's this part where 2 questions in one, yeah? One is, I'm applying for this job, then this guy tells me, how much should I pay you? How much should I ask for? So, that's the question that they come. Frank, I've been told to go to this place. I'm supposed to start off as a web developer. How much should I charge? How much should I say I should be paid? Then there's the other side. This guy has told me to build a platform, platform like Jumia. How much should I charge them? And then the answer that all experienced developers will say is, it depends. Now we don't want it depends. Now you need to give us either a formula or a figure for the 2 scenarios.
So it depends. Let me comment on the job first and then the freelancing first. Next, for the job, do your research before you go for the interview. If you're like a junior dev, go to iHub's jobs board. Some of them, they put the salary there. Check the websites that advertise for jobs. Check how much they're paying. If you know someone who is in a similar position, ask them. Call them and ask them, hey, how much are you paid? So then you have an idea of what ballpark you're playing in. So that's one. As you become more senior, you have more clout. So you can say, this is the amount of money it will take me to be happy to work for you all my hours of all the week, and then I won't work for anybody else. But that will come with seniority. For freelancing, somebody gave me a very useful piece of advice that I found works for me. Just ask yourself, how much... So, okay, how much am I worth? But not like that. Not how much you can be sold for, but how much, if I'm working on this project. In Kenya, people don't like to hear hours, but as the person who is offering the service, you can still calculate the hours. You don't have to present it to the client. So estimate this project will take how many hours? It will take 20 hours. How much per hour? Okay, say in a month, because most of us, we calculate our needs monthly. In a month, how much do I need to be happy? You calculate how much. So in 20 hours, that means it's like, 2 weeks of work or something. So you divide it by 2. And then, so if this project will take me 20 hours, then take your monthly figure that you would ideally earn, divide it by 2. That's the ballpark. Maybe the client will negotiate a bit, but then if it comes like way below, then okay, I'm not going to be happy to do that. If the client calls me and says, okay, you need to change item B through Z, then not for this amount of money. But if the client is paying you the amount of money will make you happy, you'll be happy working. In my experience, I found I'm happy working on the project. If you have revisions, I'm happy to do your revisions. Yeah, so you can use that as a formula.
I'm gonna approach this from a big corporate kind of position, because we've had the benefit of acting for some of them. And looking at some of their contracts when they get into, when they're looking for such services, I can tell you that, those figures are ridiculous. because they are always, like when you describe parties in a contract, it will be Mr. XYZ of Kenya, but the other party is always based in Dubai, India, California, and all that. So that's why it usually, the problem for us usually starts. They're always dealing with guys who are not in Kenya. Then you go down the contract, you see the figures. Just getting a license fee for a particular software is this amount per annum, which you have to pay like in advance. Customization, another batch. Upgrades and maintenance, another batch. Basically, the service support on phone is free, on email is free. If they have to bring somebody to Kenya, you have to pay them another batch. So you're looking at it and you're wondering, what is so hard in getting a Kenyan to be trained by this company to offer these other solutions that they have to get the company has to send somebody from out there. Also, you wonder with these big corporates, this type of solution that they're outsourcing from out of Kenya, can they just look at it, get a particular license agreement which would allow them to either update or enhance it and have it sit locally and maintained locally? So again, it depends with how you put yourselves out there. Are you putting yourselves out there as being internationally, being able to compete on an international platform, or are you able to just compete on a local platform? And if you put yourselves out there as being able to compete on a local platform, then they'll pay you local fees. But if you're coming with certifications that anybody from an international playing field will come, then these corporates will not hesitate you to pay you your worth. But it just depends with how you're putting out yourself out there and what capacity and certifications you're getting.